got married to Caleb, you see, so there is absolutely no connection with any of you. I'm not going to associate with relatives anymore. Please leave." We attended a housewarming party for Caleb, and during the event we were taken aback by an extraordinary announcement from Sienna, our daughter-in-law. Caleb glanced at his wife's face while standing beside her.
"That's the way it is. Please never get involved in our lives ever again,"
he said, delivering another blow. Who would have thought that I'd hear such words from someone else's wife, let alone my own son? My name is Nora. I am a 60-year-old housewife. My husband, Joe, is the only son of the owners of a charming boutique bed and breakfast, and he took over the family business. When I stayed there, he fell in love with me at first sight, and after a year of dating,
"I'm going to be successful, and I want us to be together,"
he said boldly, and that's how we decided to get married. Afterward, he turned the inherited B&B into a trendy and affordable hotel, which became a hit and earned him significant profits, leading to the expansion of more hotels along the same concept, eventually developing into a group company with around 15 hotels. During that time, we were blessed with 2 boys, and everything seemed to be going smoothly. With that said, my husband and I were facing a significant problem. It was about our eldest son, Caleb. Caleb is greedy, you might say. Since childhood, he would lie down in the middle of the road and cry loudly whenever he wanted something, seemingly oblivious to others' opinions, and it felt like a constant battle, leading me to scold him nearly every day. When his younger brother was born, Caleb would covet his belongings and take things from him without telling us, doing so without permission.
"He gave it to me willingly,"
he would lie. Our second son, named Connor, perhaps not wanting or having it given up, let his brother take his things and did not resist. When he entered elementary school, Caleb would frequently be called in by the teachers, mostly due to instances where he wanted his friends' belongings, leading to fights and causing injuries. No matter how much I scolded him on behalf of my busy husband, Caleb acted as if nothing affected him, and I ended up apologizing to the neighbors all the time, feeling mentally drained. By the time Caleb reached high school, he started treating our belongings as his own, taking my husband's watch and clothes without permission, and even selling stuff in my bags for money without asking. He started behaving more selfishly than when he was younger. My husband, who had been lenient, couldn't ignore Caleb's behavior anymore, and he sternly reprimanded him. But during his rebellious phase, Caleb refused to listen and kept pushing back. On the other hand, the second son, perhaps learning from his older brother's example, grew up to be very gentle and calm in nature. After graduating university, Caleb wasn't actively job hunting, so my husband reluctantly offered him a position in one of his hotels. I asked the manager there not to hesitate in educating him as if he were his own son. Despite getting the job through connections, Caleb constantly complained about night shifts being bothersome, low pay, and the troublesome customers. Both my husband and I were frustrated and troubled, not knowing what to do with our inept son. The turning point for Caleb was when Sienna, his girlfriend, entered the picture. At 32, Caleb, who had never had a girlfriend, became infatuated with Sienna, 2 years younger than him.
"I want to be as successful for you, Sienna, as my dad was,"
he went so far as to say. In fact, after dating Sienna, Caleb became more diligent in his work. And when the manager of the hotel where Caleb worked was transferred to another hotel,
"Dad, make me the manager. Sienna said she would marry me if I become one,"
he pleaded with his father. Despite thinking Caleb was too young to be a manager, my husband considered Caleb's 10 years of experience and decided to entrust him with one of the hotels, hoping that taking on a responsible job and getting married might help him become a capable and independent man. I only knew Sienna through photos, but she seemed like a refined young lady, coming from a distinguished family background with her father being a lawyer. I gazed at the photo with a prayerful wish for Caleb to recover and get back on track. Thus, my oldest son settled into the position of manager, and brought Sienna into our home as his bride-to-be. Sienna sat down on the sofa and looked around the interior of the room. "It feels like someone has made it big here," she commented. My husband and I were taken aback, thinking we misheard, but Caleb didn't reprimand her for her rude remark.
Well, unlike your background, Sienna, we come from humble origins with no prestigious lineage,
Caleb said with a smirk. Sienna nodded her head. "Well, if you marry me, you'll become a part of that family background, so please behave accordingly," she said, driving her point home. Caleb looked up to Sienna with admiration, nodding solemnly in reverence. My husband and I were in a state of panic, wondering what was happening. However, for Caleb, Sienna was like a goddess, and it's undeniable that her influence played a significant role in motivating him to start taking his work seriously. To Caleb, losing her would mean reverting back to his old careless self. My husband and I were worried.
Oh, to think such a distinguished young lady would become Caleb's bride is amazing, isn't it?
That's true, isn't it? It's a fortunate connection. As we tried to warmly welcome Sienna, she subtly twitched her eyebrows in response. "Don't use outdated terms like bride these days. Wife is the correct term. Isn't it too old-fashioned to think that when a woman marries, it means joining that family?" In a surprising contrast to her elegant appearance, she spoke her mind straightforwardly. We hurriedly responded. "Oh, that wasn't her intention. Sorry for being old-fashioned." The way of saying it became a habit.
Yes, our apologies. Yeah, nowadays we don't use such expressions. Of course, we don't think of you as entering a family or anything like that. We definitely don't hold such views. As we tried to reassure her, Sienna, with a composed gesture, sipped her tea in a refined manner as if to say, "It's okay as long as you understand." It seemed like Caleb was finding amusement in watching us a bit flustered. "I'm already in a different world than you guys." His eyes seemed to convey such a message. So they were successfully married and on their first New Year's together. We invited them both to our home for a family gathering. Connor was already married and his wife was pregnant with their baby before Caleb got married. Sienna remained silent and focused on her meal in a corner of the room without offering any help with cooking or pouring drinks for anyone. On the other hand, Connor's wife Lily, despite being heavily pregnant, worked hard and was adored by everyone. Caleb and his wife attended for about 2 hours, then they said, "We have other things to do," and left. After that, Lily came to me and said, "What's the point of being so obsequious with Caleb's wife?" I was told, "Is that person always like that? Or did I do something?" Concerned, Lily asked, and I reassured her that it's better not to worry, as that's just how Sienna is. Later, Caleb called. Sienna mentioned that there were a lot of vulgar conversations, and she felt uncomfortable. "Please, don't invite us to such gatherings anymore," he said. I wasn't sure which vulgar conversation she was referring to, but having a woman sitting there looking uninterested and subdued didn't make me feel at ease either, so I just said, yes, sure. I don't think women should be told what to do, but regardless of gender, I believe we should at least behave in a way that doesn't make others uncomfortable in such a fun setting. I felt like we couldn't really connect, so I decided to give each other some space and try to handle things gracefully. So we invited Connor and his wife to occasional events we held at our home, but we didn't extend an invitation to Caleb's family. However, when Connor's baby was born, I felt I should reach out, so I contacted Sienna, but she responded with a disinterested "Oh," and "Do we have to go? I'm busy, you know," she said. I wanted to ask how she could be so busy when she's supposed to be a housewife, but I managed to suppress that thought. "Well, I thought I should let you know. If you'd like, it would be nice if you could come and celebrate. But don't push yourself, it's okay." She responded maturely. "Well, yeah. If I feel like it, I'll go. That's all there is to it, right?" She said that and promptly hung up the phone.
Of course, she didn't come to celebrate the birth of Connor's child, and Caleb also didn't show up. A year after Caleb's marriage and his taking over the hotel, I asked my husband how things were going, and it seemed to be causing him some concern. Due to my husband's recent expansion into the real estate business, he couldn't give all his attention to our son, and that's also a factor. At that time, Caleb came to my house and asked me for some advice. We thought it over, and if it would lead to a positive outcome, we decided to grant Caleb's request. And then 2 months later, he moved into a newly built house. The house was in a luxurious neighborhood, a European-style mansion with a garden. It truly captivated me when I arrived for the housewarming celebration. And when my husband and I rang the doorbell together, Caleb and his wife came out to the entrance, and the first thing Sienna said was, "What are you here for?" she said in a sharp tone, and I was a little taken aback. We're here for the housewarming, right? I hope you like this." I lifted the bag with the gift and tried to hand it to her, but she surprisingly brushed it away with her hand, and the bag made a dull sound as it fell to the ground. She didn't even open it. "I married Caleb, not any of you. We have no connection with you whatsoever. We won't be involved with relatives anymore. Please, just leave." With such a declaration, Sienna made an unexpected announcement. While standing next to Sienna, Caleb attentively watched his wife's expression.
"That's the way it is. Just leave us alone for good."
And he added insult to injury. My husband and I were stunned, and we involuntarily exchanged glances. And then the front door was closed right in front of us, and it couldn't be opened again. I picked up the fallen paper bag and checked its contents, only to find that the luxurious tea set inside was completely shattered and no longer usable. I felt the tension that had built up until now suddenly release, and before I knew it, tears were streaming down my face. I always felt like I was wondering where I went wrong in raising him and what I could have done differently. My husband sensed my feelings and gently hugged my shoulders.
"You haven't done anything wrong. You've worked hard all this time. Thank you. I'm sorry I couldn't do anything."
He bowed his head as he said this. I felt as if all my hard work had been rewarded with those words. And then my husband and I made a firm decision to take drastic measures. 1 month later, with a real estate agent accompanying us, we visited Caleb's house. Both of them were surprised by our appearance.
"What did you come here for? I told you not to get involved anymore."
"That's right. You're shameless. We have nothing to do with you anymore. Remember that," she yelled loudly. My husband calmly showed the property deed with his name on it to Caleb and his wife.
"Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. We've decided to sell this place. We don't have an obligation to let others live here for free," he declared quietly. Sienna stared at the deed until there were holes in it, repeatedly confirming that her husband's name wasn't there. The real estate agent took out his business card and gave it to Caleb in passing. "All right, I'll start the appraisal now." As he silently measured here and there with a tape measure, Caleb stood in his way. "What the hell are you doing?" he screamed, like a madman. Then my husband, "Don't get in the way. We're busy too. If you have time for this, pack up your belongings. Don't interfere with others." With a stern rebuke, Caleb collapsed. That's... If we lose this house, where are we going to live?" He began to panic, and then Sienna, Wait! You didn't build this house, did you?" She tightly grasped the deed and lunged at her husband. Caleb averted his eyes from his wife. "Well, the thing is, we didn't have enough money. I just borrowed a little." Upon hearing this, I interjected. "Just a little? What are you saying? We paid the full amount. When we started our real estate business and put this newly built house up for sale, didn't you say you wanted this house? So we thought you would pay for it, but instead, you said you'd pay us back slowly over time." I revealed the truth to them. Sienna's ears twitched. "Renting? You mean it's a rental?"
then we have tenant rights. The landlord can't just kick us out. She spoke with excitement, but Caleb trembled and shook his head.
We didn't sign a rental agreement.
Sienna looked at Caleb with disbelief. I nodded in agreement. We did talk about it, you know. Caleb said he didn't need it. It's all right, he said. He'd pay back. Well, I guess he never intended to pay back from the start. Saying that, Sienna still firmly held onto her husband's collar. You're unbelievable. How dumb can you be? And she started scolding him. With a distressed expression, Caleb looked like he was on the verge of tears, seeking help from us, but my husband and I remained silent, lowering our heads and quietly sipping our tea. After the tirade against Caleb from his wife has subsided, my husband solemnly spoke.
Oh, and about the hotel you've been managing for us? We'll have our sign taken off. The rest, handle it on your own.
Our scolded and worn-out son, with his eyes blinking rapidly, spoke with a trembling voice.
Huh? Well, work and personal life are different matters.
He clung to my husband, but my husband brushed his hand away.
What nonsense are you talking about? Your hotel had a bad reputation from the beginning. Everyone tolerated it because you're my son. I must have warned you multiple times. This is a good opportunity to cut ties. I'll sever the connection, he declared.
Sienna seemed to be hearing such a story for the first time. You? What's with that story? That hotel group is already mine. Didn't you say your dad was already senile and useless?
It's because it's my parents, so eventually it'll be mine.
What are you saying? So you mean the only thing left for us is that one hotel? My husband laughed and...
You won't have trouble finding a place to stay,
he said sarcastically. Sienna clenched her lips. I've been deceived. I'll sue you both. Be prepared. She screamed and made a fuss, so you guys, just sue my son. Leave us out of it. We have no intention of getting involved anymore. Besides, it was you who first said we should stop having family relationships, right? I calmly replied. Then, even though she seemed uncertain, well, that's because I didn't hear the whole story until just now. And besides, if I had known he was like this, I never would have married him in the first place, she said. When I asked him about it, it turns out that Caleb had been claiming all along that he wasn't the eldest son. He probably thought it would make it easier for him to get married. And now that the marriage is official and his true identity as the eldest son was revealed, Sienna got angry. You're a big liar. I'll never take care of your parents. Never! No more relatives interactions. Got it? If not, I'll sue you for fraud. With those threats, Caleb reluctantly agreed and warned us not to get involved with them. On the contrary, I was surprised to hear that they thought they could avoid paying for the house. After scolding her husband thoroughly, Sienna continued. I can't stay in this place any longer. I'm going back to my parents' house. She said that and left. Abandoned, Caleb sat there in shock, but when we said we were leaving, he suddenly stood up.
Yeah. Well then, see you later,
he replied evasively. My husband and I left Caleb's house, thinking in our hearts that there was no way we were going to see him again since we were cutting ties. A few days later, there were two surprises. One was that Sienna was trying to return to her parents' house.
Once you get married, you must stick with it till the end. We don't want a divorced daughter in our family.
It seems she was turned away. Despite her earlier claims, it appears her parents had very traditional views. It seems that Caleb's wife reluctantly returned to him, and the two of them moved to a luxury rental apartment. However, as soon as the hotel under Caleb's care had its sign removed, most of the employees quit, and the management became unsustainable. With the debt that had originally been there, the hotel was quickly forced to close, and Caleb lost his source of income. With no other choice, the two of them had to leave the luxury apartment and move into a 50-year-old wooden apartment in the neighborhood. It seems that Sienna doesn't want anyone to know that they live in such an apartment. Every time she goes in or out, she hides her face with a hat and sunglasses, behaving like a thief, sneaking around. The reason I know this is because that wooden apartment is located very close to the house we bought for Connor and Lily using the money from selling Caleb's house. It was no coincidence that Caleb was planning to move into his brother's house if he could. Another thing that astonished us was how Caleb somehow found out that we bought a house for his brother and his wife. One day he showed up at their house and, as usual, started in his usual manner.
Hey, just one room is fine, okay? Let me stay here. Don't you feel sorry for your own older brother living in such a rundown apartment? I'll be here every day if you want me to.
He appealed to his brother like so. He probably thought that his kind brother would feel sorry for him and lend him a room. However, his brother, now a father himself, never nodded in agreement.
Caleb, I have something to protect too. It might sound cruel, but I can't give that up,
he calmly said, and it infuriated Caleb.
I'm the victim here. The truth is, it was me who got the money for the house. Why are you being pampered and enjoying all the benefits?
He yelled and ranted, but his brother remained silent, listening to Caleb's verbal abuse, and finally,
It's karma catching up to you. You brought this upon yourself.
That's what he clearly stated. And oh, the expression on the Caleb's face at that moment. Lily joyfully reported that it was immensely satisfying to witness. After losing his job, Caleb now works as a garbage truck cleaner during the day and endures scoldings from his wife at home, while at night he took up a security job to make ends meet. He would only sneak home and sleep when his wife was working part-time. Connor and Lily pretend to be complete strangers when they run into them. Lily said that their appearance was gradually becoming more and more shabby. You wouldn't recognize them if you don't look closely anymore. People can change so much depending on their environment, she said, and I responded sincerely. In the end, it comes down to your heart. And upon advising her, I also promised to be mindful of it, and she responded with a respectful salute. When I told her that she would be fine as she is, she thanked me and seemed delighted. I can't help but feel that Connor has a wonderful wife. And now, as a result, our family is blessed with adorable grandchildren and live happily every day.